I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Thomas, you would proceed with the work session agenda.
Okay, the first item is actually the discussion regarding modifications to the ordinance regarding keeping chickens. I have some handouts that I'm going to pass out to you all. They're really just some easy math that I did, so when you're looking at these things, you can kind of won't have to sit there with your phones and calculate math. I have a couple sets of these drawings. So some of the things that were proposed with the chickens, keeping chickens, was reduction of the square footage requirement from the acreage requirement from 2 acres down to 2,000 square feet. So what I did was in our GIS, I had, as of right now, if you look at this map here, and we can make copies available to the public when we're done here. I apologize, I didn't have time to make a bunch of copies of them. This map here, the first map in the light green here, these are the properties that can currently have chickens. They meet the requirements for the minimum 2 acres. It's quite a substantial portion of the borough. So everything in green is currently 2 acres or more. So then the next one is this one. This is, if you were to reduce it down to 1 acre, that would be all the properties in green that would be permitted to have chickens under our current ordinance. I mean, same regulations, just 1 acre, not 2 acres. And then
If you went down to 1 acre.
if you went down to 1 acre,
Okay.
this would be the difference. This is 2 acres, that would be 1 acre. If you went to 2,000 square yards, 2,000 square feet, excuse me, as proposed, it would literally be and we had some problems in our GIS. I don't know why it didn't color in some of these properties, because they're clearly more than 2,000 square feet. It would be all 11,000 properties in Plum except for 1 property in Logan's Ferry. So we just wanted to give you an idea of what those changes would mean as far as, you know, how many households would be permitted to have them. The reason that you restrict the chickens is because of regardless of the positive impacts of the people that have them, it's the potential negative impacts of the neighbors or the complaints of the neighbors. Some of the other things that we looked at, we updated the agenda packets this month with additional examples of some of the other municipalities are doing. So if you go into the agenda packet, we have a summary of some of the additional municipalities that were reviewed, as well as the actual ordinances for North Versailles, Penn Township, and Shaler Township. Last month's agenda packet had a number of other ones in. But you can see, as we talked about last month, they're all over the place. Murraysville has a minimum of 5 acres. Oakmont has no regulations. Verona has no free range, no roosters on a 2,000 square foot lot. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. I thought it was Monroeville. Monroeville's currently updating theirs now, but they're all over the place. What some of the other municipalities have done is, instead of having a minimum lot size, is they've imposed a minimum distance from the chicken coop to the nearest inhabited structure. So that's not your structure. If you're the person with the chickens, it's the nearest neighboring inhabited structure. So some municipalities have a restriction of 300 feet. Some municipalities have a restriction of 200 feet. So what I did on that cheat sheet for you there,
I see that's what North Versailles has here. They have chicken coops and chicken pens must be located at least 15 feet from the property line and at least 25 feet from any adjacent building or residential structure not owned by the applicant.
So I just tried to give you some examples. If you were to put a restriction like that, for example, if you chose to have a restriction of 150 feet from a neighboring inhabited structure, that would in essence limit the property owner to a property that was 17,000 square feet or just about less than half an acre. Obviously, if you limited it to restricted it to 300 feet from the nearest inhabited structure, that would be, you know, if you do the math on the radius of that property, that's essentially a 70,000 square foot property, or a distance of 70,000 square foot anyway, or about an acre and a half. Kind of hard, it's not an exact science, it's kind of hard to do that. I was just trying to give you all an idea of, if you were to head in that direction with restricting it based on distance from a neighboring inhabited structure, based on just feet, you know, feet from the structure. That's what you would be because if you do that, you're going to limit the size of the property.
Well, yeah, absolutely, because if it's just, say, 150 feet, that's like half an acre between, you know, property lines or property structures.
Well, just from the structure itself, too, which would depend. That's why I say it's not an exact
How many
science.
people typically have half an acre between their house and the next house?
So what we did is we took a look at the
It's not.
some of the average sizes of the properties in Plum, square footage, based off our GIS. Holiday Park is roughly 8,000 to 11,000 square foot and on average. The Highlands, the minimum lot size is 10,000 feet, but many of them are much larger than that. Rustic Ridge, the minimum lot size is 9,000 square feet. Autumn Ridge is 9,000. Briarwood and Rockland, the minimum lot size is 12,000. Cherry Springs, the minimum lot size is 15, as is Kellywood. And then we looked at Edgemead. Edgemead, the minimum lot size, based on our sample size, was 8,000 square feet. And even when we looked at Renton, we tried to get an average. The average lot size is about 10,000 square feet. You have a lot that are much smaller than that, though.
Yeah.
So, and you have a lot of those properties in Renton that have duplexes.
Yeah, what do you do in that case? You know?
So last month when we talked about this, you had asked staff for some issues regarding enforcement. The only thing that, you know, if council's interested in making changes to this, obviously you just tell us what your pleasure is regarding whether or not you want to reduce the minimum lot size, whether or not you want to place a restriction on feet that the coop can be from a house, however you want to, I almost said skin that cat, I guess I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
But the only thing that the staff would prefer is not to get into the actual chicken business, you know, counting chickens, making sure that it's a hen, not a rooster. But other than that, it's just enforcing whatever regulations, you know, we're enforcing the regulations now.
Mike, let me interrupt and ask a question. If just as a history, why are we talking about chickens? How did this come up? Were there complaints about chickens?
We had several residents come to council meetings and request that our ordinance be changed.
So they're anti-chicken, or
No,
They want
they
chicken.
came requesting that we
I got you. Okay.
change the existing ordinance, which prohibits having chickens unless you have a property greater than 2 acres.
Must
Got
have
it.
been a month you weren't at the meeting, Mike.
Yeah, okay.
We got roughly 11,400 properties. How many properties are we talking about? I mean, that want chickens now.
Oh, I have no idea.
They had petitions.
Yeah,
and
they
a lot
sent a
of people
petition,
signed them,
and
so
there was over,
Apparently, there's interest.
I forwarded the petition around to everybody. I can't remember the numbers of individuals that signed. I'll take a look in a second and give you a rough estimate, but,
Over 3,000.
oh, thank you. Hey, how are you? Wait, it's Aaron?
Nicole.
Nicole, okay, but there was the Aaron too, right?
Correct.
Okay, got it. So, there you go.
Okay, great, thank you.
We didn't have a requirement for how many we needed to get, so if we needed more, we could definitely do it.
Now, that's people that signed the petition, right?
That want them,
That's
yes.
not number of people that want to own chickens.
Right, just people that
Okay.
are in agreement that the
Yeah.
regulations should be
My
changed.
question had to deal with how many people want chickens.
Right.
Not necessarily, people that sign a petition don't necessarily, they don't have an objection to people having chickens. They
Right.
just,
Right.
That's what I was
the borough
looking at.
isn't gonna go out and get chickens if the regulation is changed.
thank you, Nicole.
How many do you think don't want them? I mean, I'm just trying to be devil's advocate here. I don't care about chickens one way or the other myself. But I want to be fair to the whole population, not just to a few people that come to our meeting and want something. It's not really representative of the whole community is what I'm saying.
Right, but compared to other municipalities, our regulations are very, very extensive. We have the research on that as well. And it's a difference between hens and roosters. Hens aren't noisy, roosters are. Most municipalities do not allow roosters. We're not asking for roosters, we're asking for hens.
Yeah, I understand that, but I had a person approached me right after that meeting that night, and they were completely opposite. You know, they live in a plan, and a neighbor had a few chickens, and nobody said anything to him, although it was against the HOA's law, you know, bylaws at the time to have them. And his neighbor had a couple, and he was like, okay, I'll let bygones be, they're not making any noise, it's great. Well, then all of a sudden, they were, you know, this guy was letting them run around, I guess, you know, and they were doing things on his car, you know, and, you know, just making a nuisance of him. They were spending more time in his yard and driveway and on his cars than they were in the guy that owned them. So he just said, you know, just be careful what you, he said, this guy had, I guess he had a big lot, and it was a little over, just a little over an acre in size. So I guess the HOA had to change the rules to make him not, nobody in the plan could have him now.
So I take it he didn't have a fence.
No, he didn't have a fence.
I think one of the things
the
that we
man
should
knows
do,
it.
I mean, I don't have a problem with anybody having chickens, but they should have a fenced-in yard.
Yeah,
So
I
then the
agree
chickens
too.
stay in their yard, so
That's what I'm
I don't
trying
know
to
if we
get
can put that as some type
Well,
in
but
the
then
ordinance.
there you get into the enforcement thing, Paul, you know, and it's, I'm really worried about.
Yeah, the enforcement's gonna be tough,
Yeah,
just like any.
Well,
But it's already enforced now.
if
So
they get
what
a
is-
complaint,
what is the
if you get a
difference?
complaint, it becomes enforceable now, I believe.
Well, if you don't have the 2 acres, we are aware of people who have had to get rid of their chickens, so it is being enforced. You
Okay.
can require a run
Then
space.
somebody must have complained about them.
that's usually probably what happens.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there will
Truthfully.
be people that disagree, but there are
Right.
more people that want them and should be able to have them in the municipality that we live in that has roots in farming.
Well, I mean, and again, I understand that argument, but if you're the person that doesn't want them, and you've paid just as much for your home as your neighbor has for theirs, why do you have to be inconvenienced at your own home?
Because you're not being inconvenienced, nor is it going to drive your property value down.
I'm not,
You are going
property
to-
values are the least of my concern, believe me, I know it's not gonna drive your property value down.
So
But it's
it's clear that
just-
there's always going to be two sides of this argument. Okay, so what I'm thinking we propose is as I've looked and reviewed the information that was provided by members of the community and a number of different ordinances from neighboring municipalities. It seems like we could meet the individuals halfway, right? I'm not entirely sure that doing this on was it greater than 2,000 square feet is necessarily appropriate. But if we went with, you know, say an acre, because we're at 2 acres now, and see how does that affect most homeowners?
Because couldn't we do an acre and then make sure we put in a requirement about distance from somebody's house?
Well, but I think that should go in as well. But I'm a little concerned about at least what I see here, about 150 feet, 250 feet, 300 feet. I think that's going to be again, problematic for people who really want to do this. When I look at the North for Sales property line and structure separation, it's 15 and 25 feet. So, like,
An acre would eliminate anyone in a neighborhood. And Plum is, the majority of Plum is now neighborhoods.
An acre would eliminate all the housing plans.
yeah, we probably should have you approach the. Sorry. Half acre is 21,780 square feet.
Yeah.
I think a half acre is much more appropriate than an acre.
So we're clear, that would still eliminate almost all the housing plans.
Yeah, that will. That's what is an issue.
You know,
People there are people in housing plans who want to have
Most of the housing
chickens.
plans are less than 20,
Right.
So most of, like the Highlands, Rustic Ridge, and all those, Kellywood, most of them, Colonial Point, are all less than 20,000 square foot lots.
I mean, there's a lot of things you can't do in your home, even though you own it and you might want to do something, it's not allowed by your municipality. This is,
Right, I understand that,
You
but the
know,
majority
so-
of municipalities are allowing this, including the city of Pittsburgh.
well, we're not going to compare ourselves to the city of Pittsburgh. They have a much more dense population. God bless
And
them.
way less space.
God bless them if they don't mind that, but, you know, I don't know for a fact. I'd like to see their complaints versus their, you know, I'd like to see the good and bad from everything. I don't want to rush off and make this decision haphazardly and then come back and
Yeah, we're
regret
not
it.
asking for that. But
Okay.
when we're looking at neighboring communities like Oakmont, where you can have them, there's no reason in Plum that it needs to be 2 acres, or even an acre is still unnecessary.
Well, we're gonna try and come up with some solution, but I can't really speak to what the size is yet, because I don't know, truthfully. So I would prefer we didn't change it at all.
This one
But
is,
I'm
we changed it
open
to an acre,
to
right?
something reasonable.
2,000 square feet.
2,000 square feet, okay.
So, give me an idea, I can't picture in my head. Take this room, what's in here, what would be 2,000 square feet, roughly?
2,000 square feet is, it's 100 by 200, right? No, that's
That's
25.
No, it's
Be 20
it's
by-
40, it's 40 by 40, 45 by 45.
Yeah.
So,
Keep your shoes
See
on.
where they have one.
I'm looking at the.
so it's roughly the size of this room. Not as big, but pretty much from the back of the room to about here.
No, you gotta put a house on here.
Right, I know. So that's pretty small.
2,000 square feet is small.
When you include your house.
It is small.
And a driveway, 2,000 square feet is pretty
So
small.
I look at it like a half acre, I have a half acre lot that my
21,000.
house is on.
700.
So I'm thinking, a half acre is 21,780 square feet. But you guys were looking at like 2,000 square feet.
Which,
So-
yeah, that's because that's what
So we're
neighboring
going,
communities
if we're
have.
looking at it from square footage, we're talking about, based on what you were recommending, from 87,000 square feet down to 2,000 square feet.
Right.
That's a big swing.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out how to take a crawl, walk, run approach to this. If we try to slowly reduce the size and see how things progress based on numbers of complaints and issues that we may run into that we haven't really considered based on the discussion that we've had.
I got it, go ahead, Bob, I got an idea, but go ahead.
Just to give you an example, like Holiday Park is typically 65-foot frontage lots, and they're about, on the average, maybe 150 to 140, 160 feet deep, something like that, but you got a house on there. The smallest lot in Holiday Park typically is like 7,500 square feet.
So then they wouldn't be able to have chickens.
They would be able to if you lowered it to
2,000.
2,000 square foot.
That's
So
almost,
they're about 7,500
Well,
square
could
foot.
we do something with the size, with the number? Like 2,000 square feet, I mean, you don't want to have just one chicken, you always have to have like 2, correct?
Correct, 2. A lot of the municipalities that are neighboring communities let you have 4 and no more than that.
So if we limit the number to say 4
find out.
with 2,000 square feet, I mean, I don't know, I mean.
Or
I-
even 2.
They don't wanna get into the.
I don't know, is 2 enough? I mean, I know that if you're wanting chickens, you want the eggs.
Trust
So,
me,
I mean,
it's
How
enough.
many- Yeah, so how many eggs would 2 chickens lay in a typical day?
Well, they'll lay 1 every other day, so you have 2 chickens, you're gonna.
So you're only getting 2 eggs for the work of having 2 chickens. So
Yeah,
probably most people would want to have 4.
I don't know.
So interestingly enough, right, I talked to one of the commissioners from North for Sales, and I asked them about this because they recently, had updated their ordinance on it. Their ordinance doesn't have a minimum requirement for land, but they have the setbacks and they have some other stipulations. He indicated that they haven't had issues with this since they updated their ordinance, because typically, he said, the people that want to have these chickens are the responsible individuals who are keeping them. Now that being said, I'm not advocating that we go from something to absolutely nothing, right? But I think we can probably try to change this in a manner that drives us in the direction of allowing more residents to have it, and then see how things go over a period of time. And if we see that they're going well, then maybe we can reduce it further.
that's
I'm
what
worried
I was-
about opening up the floodgate and then causing like an problem
That's what I was getting at. If we start small and see where it goes. I mean, you don't want to have somebody that has 2,000 square feet and have them come home one day with 12 chickens. You know, if that lived next door to you, I think you might be a little upset. So I think if we, you know.
If we went down to a half acre, right,
Yeah.
that probably
that's
would
a
be
good starting
reasonable.
point.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
I think that's a good starting
Yeah.
point. I really like North
But I
Versailles
think we gotta look
ordinance. I
at the
think they
number
did a good
too.
job
I
with
mean,
it.
I think the number's gonna be important, because like I said, if someone comes home with 12 chickens, you know, I think we're gonna get a lot of complaints. If you come home with 4 chickens, I don't think it's gonna be that big of an issue with someone that has them, and that's gonna allow you to have the eggs that you're looking to have the chickens for.
So the major
Completely
questions
agree.
that you guys needed to develop an update to the ordinance was the minimum land requirements. So we have that. What were the other things that you needed?
Well, are you going to, so is it 4 chickens if I have 20 acres, and 4 chickens if I have half an acre?
I think we should just start out with 4 chickens total.
Well,
And
that's
no
what I'm saying, like,
roosters.
That's what
No
I'm saying.
roosters.
And no
Is it-
roosters,
what I'm saying
because
is
that's
Yeah,
where the
no
noise
roosters,
comes in,
though,
correct?
absolutely.
If I have
Yes.
20 acres, I'm still only allowed 4, that's the
Right.
question.
Well,
Because right now, we have
If it's
people
a-
that
if it's a
have
working
10
farm,
acres that
yeah.
have a lot of chickens.
well, that's,
Yeah, I think you gotta get into the acreage too. I mean, like, I'm going to Holiday Park. If you live in Holiday Park, I don't want someone living next to me with 12 chickens.
Right.
If my next door neighbor came home tomorrow with 4 chickens, I don't think I'd really have an issue with it.
Yeah.
But 12
So,
chickens,
so here
I
it
think
says,
I might.
only female chickens, hens are allowed,
Yeah.
roosters are prohibited
Yeah.
within the township limits. The maximum number of chickens allowed is 4 per single-family dwelling unit.
So is this gonna be a separate ordinance, because we have people that have a lot of chickens.
Right.
But are they farmers?
And they have
Those are
roosters,
farms,
because
right?
they
Are
raise
they
the chickens.
But they have farms.
Are they farmers?
or they're.
Yeah, but
Or
that's
they're
what I'm
big
saying, is
enough
this a different ordinance?
acreage.
Because those farmers have those chickens under our current zoning regs.
Right.
Is this a different ordinance? Because
gonna have to be.
if I go to,
I know, it's getting complicated, but I think we've gotta address the people that want them, and, I mean, you know, having 4 chickens, I don't think is gonna be.
Yeah, so rather than change I think it's the husbandry, the existing husbandry, well, we may have to modify that just based on but this is a specific ordinance on,
like
the-
urban chicken farming or something?
well,
I mean-
no, it's
No, I'm asking if that's what you want to create.
It's
something
titled
like that.
Regulating the Keeping of Chickens Within the Township of North Versailles. I think we need something very similar, as opposed to, and then whatever we have here would ultimately drive us to modify what's in the current, and what is it, the husbandry section of the ordinance that we
The
have?
zoning ordinance?
Of the zoning
Yeah,
ordinance?
well, that's why we have to put a size in here, because anything above this size, that would be the normal lot for these plans of homes, would be allowed, because it's people in farms are still allowed to farm and have their, if they have, X
Right.
amount of
Well,
acres.
Yeah, I understand that sort of makes sense intuitively, but I still need how am I writing this?
Right,
So
like,
that's
so.
Like, so
for-
I have a guy right up on Stotler Road that raises chickens. He sells eggs, but he also breeds chickens, he sells chickens. Like, is he only allowed 4? Because he's got 12 acres. How am I writing this?
Well, so when I look at this, it's households and non-commercial food production.
Okay, so.
As an
we're gonna
adjunct to
segregate-
residential
We're gonna
dwellings.
separate between some sort of, and I'm just
Yes.
spitballing here. We're gonna call it sort of urban chicken farming or something like that. That's differentiated that is, because right now there is no separate ordinance for this.
Right.
Yeah, because we
So
can't
this
mess
is a
with
new
farms that are
ordinance just
currently
for
in
people that
business.
want to do, again, I'm just making up a term, sorry, urban chicken farming.
Suburban
The
chickens.
keeping of chickens within the municipality or within the
The
borough
keeping of chickens within the
farm.
municipality would still apply to the guy on Stotler Road with
Yes,
the 12
yes.
acres.
But again, the guy on Stotler Road with 12 acres is doing this for
Business.
commercial. He's commercial, right? This specifically says non-commercial food production. He's not engaged in non-commercial food production. He has a business.
If
It's
he's
a-
selling something, it's a business. Whether it's completely legal or not, we don't know. But he
I
is selling
mean,
something, right?
I get it, there's going to be corner cases, but I think if
Yeah.
we structure our ordinance after the way the North Versailles one is written, without the stipulations that would require onerous oversight, right? Because we don't necessarily want to impose that. I think we can probably get somewhere, but what I don't like about this is there's no
No minimum lot
minimum.
size.
And if we add a minimum lot size and present this, I think we probably have something that we could get
Yeah,
to.
North Versailles
Is
doesn't
it-
have to worry about existing farms.
Right, true.
So I
They
have,
don't
I
have
have,
that
I have two
land.
issues. One is just how I'm writing this, and the second one is how we're enforcing it. Is it, can we at least try and do something where we say, you know, if you have half an acre, you can have up to 4 chickens, but if you have more than 5 acres, this doesn't
Right,
apply
it
or
doesn't
something
apply.
like
I think
that.
that's a
Yeah,
good way of
absolutely.
doing it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I could go with that.
Yep.
Yes, I think that's a great start.
And then if somebody comes and says they have 5 acre, 4.79 acres or something, they'll have to ask for an
Yeah,
exception.
but that's not
depending
gonna
on where they're at,
Right.
it'd be a
Right.
zoning
I
thing.
mean, I think everything to this point could be grandfathered, sort of, maybe?
It would be anyway.
Yeah.
Well, they're also gonna have to get their HOAs changed. To
Well,
change the rules for
Well,
the
that's
HOA.
not,
it
that's not,
depends.
that's not our issue.
Yeah,
No, I know
why-
that's not
why-
our
yeah.
issue, but if somebody wants
So-
to put chickens in,
Well, if the individual plan, HOAs
the
don't want it,
individual
then
plan's
that's
gonna have to
up to
modify or
them.
say no, and that has nothing to do with us.
That's up to them, though.
But would our ordinance supersede an HOA?
No.
Okay, then we're covered. There you go.
Right, it's
So-
up to them.
Then the other question that we need to ask is, so right now, I can't believe I didn't think of the guy's name up on Stotler Road. He doesn't get a permit for it. He just.
Jimmy Burton?
Burton, thank you.
What's that?
The Miller's Farm
Oh.
has chickens that
How many acres?
They're huge
plenty
farms.
of acres.
So they don't get permits. Nothing is permitted. You know what I
Right.
mean? There's no, they are just in compliance with the current zoning regulations. Are you proposing that this new type of use, if we can call it that, is a permitted use in the sense that people have to apply for one? If you look in the North for Sale ordinance, it's a annual permit that must be applied for annually. Like, is that what you're looking for?
Well,
And then, if you are, in
know
order to
what they
demonstrate
charge?
all these things, we have to, I know that Burton has more than 2 acres. I
So
know
let me
that
ask a
Miller's
question.
Lane-
What's staff's preference on, so it's a double-edged sword. If we have an application process that's required for people to go through, then the borough has accountability for individuals who have authorized use of chickens. If we do that, that's additional, work imposed on staff to manage it. What is that buying us? Is anybody concerned with the borough's ability to track who's doing this? That's the question.
We need to do that.
Well,
And if we don't need to do that, then we don't need to have a permitted use application.
People that want chickens to raise eggs, they're not
Right.
gonna be.
As long as they're in compliance with the ordinance, we're
Right.
good.
And if your neighbors complain, then we're gonna send the zoning guy or Kevin Fields out to take a
But how-
look at it and.
How do I
Okay.
confirm their property sizes?
Yeah.
Isn't that information in the system, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, they're doing that now.
No, we just know that they have over 2 acres. Once we start getting
The
down to
county
these smaller
website should have
parcels.
the
Yeah,
acreage.
I mean,
They would have to look at that.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if we're not basing our new ordinance on size of property, we're just basing
I'm
it on
I'm not.
number of
listen,
chickens.
I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
We're not, there's nobody on staff that's opposed to any changes. It's just that when you make changes, it impacts what we do.
Sure.
And we're just trying to get clarification because it will be other issues.
So
there's
no
issues.
permitted use application, right? We agree with that.
I think you don't need to have a permit. I
Okay.
don't think that's.
That can always
necessary.
be revisited if we have to.
Sure.
Yeah,
And-
I mean,
which is why
There may be 20 people out there, they're gonna go get
Yeah.
chickens.
So that was the
If that.
that
I
was the
know.
commissioner's.
If that.
But the people that want them will take care of them.
Right.
And-
That
and
that
I
was the
think
some
commissioner's
people-
message to me. He was
Yeah.
like, you know what? He's like, we don't have an issue with this.
Yeah, everyone in the Highlands is not going out and getting
Right.
chickens
Right.
as soon
And
as
I
this
think
ordinance
some
is changed.
people may go get chickens because the initial thing is, oh, fresh eggs. But after they have those chickens for 3 or 4 months, they're gonna find out there's quite an amount of
There's work
work.
involved, yeah.
Yeah, to take care of them correctly, and they may say, you know what, it's not worth the hassle. So I don't think that this is gonna affect many
Right.
people.
Does the Highlands Homeowners Association permit you to have chickens there?
I don't live in the Highlands. I was just using that as an
Oh, you
example.
can use that.
Yeah,
So-
How do you keep them warm in the wintertime is what keeps coming to my head. How do you keep those chickens warm, the coops
A
warm?
heat lamp.
Okay,
yeah.
it's easy enough, I guess.
They know what.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah,
That's what I
I
mean,
don't,
yeah.
that's why I asked the question.
So,
Yeah, I
so
think
it's
we're
a,
good.
so this is going to have to be a separate ordinance.
I think it'll make it. I think it'll make it clearer. I mean,
Half acre minimum and a
half acre
maximum of 4
minimum.
chickens.
maximum
No-
of 4
no roo- and
chickens,
it's
no
gotta say no
roosters.
roosters.
I would say use the North for Sales Township as a guide.
Yeah.
And take out the items that don't apply, that are, oversight related. And then include the minimum half acre, the same restrictions as far as the separation distances, no permitted use application like they have in here.
And no minimum distance, so you want that 15 and 25
I
distance?
think the 15 and 25 is appropriate just based on knowing how much space there is between homes. If you make it 300 feet, we're right back where we were before. Nobody's going to be able to do it. So I would go by the guidelines that they have here, and we'll see how things progress, once people start, I guess, getting chickens.
And if you don't want to worry about a fencing requirement, you can just require a run space so that they can't just venture into other people's yards if that's a
I think
concern.
that's important to put in there.
Yep, it doesn't have to be a full
Yeah, I
fenced
don't
in yard.
necessarily think a fence,
I
I
mean-
think, a run space would
Yep.
be okay.
What does run space entail?
So it's an area around the coop where the chickens are able to go out of the covered coop space and just be out in the open grass, but it's essentially a fence for them.
Oh, okay, they're.
So
And
a run
what is-
space
Isn't
is,
it, once chickens learn their boundaries, they stay within those boundaries even though there's no fence?
for the most part, but that can't be guaranteed, so you would want
You
the,
ask Coon down there on Milltown Road, he doesn't have any chickens anymore. They kept running out the road, people kept killing them. And then he was complaining that the people were killing his chickens.
Tell them he's supposed to feed them, they'll stay there then.
No, that's all right, we'll go.
Okay, so this won't be an agenda item, but we will get a draft ordinance for the work session next month. That staff will prepare based on the guidelines that we discussed. Any other discussion?
Yeah, let's just move forward. We'll see how it looks when they get everything
Yeah.
together.
thank you.
Thank you so much for all your help.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you so much.
Item number 2 is the GEDTF. I think there's a typo on the agenda and on the website, the one that's posted. I think it says GEDEF. It's the Gaming and Economic Development and Tourism Fund grant. So this is the grant dollars that are coming from the gambling that the state authorized. We're applying for a $500,000 grant for the Center Beach project. Included in your agenda packets is a resolution authorizing that grant application.
Okay, any discussion? All right, agenda item.
Item number 3 is the Hecker subdivision reapproval. This is a simple subdivision, a little bit more than a half-acre lot on Webster Road into 2 lots. Council approved this back in June of 2021 on the condition that the applicant receive the necessary variances. They just got those variances on September 23rd. So that wasn't enough time for them to get it recorded down at the county, so we have to reapprove it. We've done a couple reapprovals over.
Any discussion? Agenda item.
Item number 4 is the hiring provisional offers of employment for 3 entry-level police patrol officers. Included in your agenda packets is the civil service hiring list of the top 3 candidates. We do have 3 retirements. We have 2 that have already taken place and 1 that is pending later this year, or maybe very early in 2022. So staff recommends that council hire the 3 individuals on the civil service hiring list, one of which is a vet, but we are recommending hiring all 3 anyway, so it's really a moot point. One of those officers, the gentleman that is the vet, would be starting first, and we'd probably like to get that person on board as quickly as we can, but the other 2 we don't anticipate starting until after the first of the year. And the reason for that, by the way, is because of the lack of, we won't have field training officers for the individuals all at once, because some of the retirements were field training officers.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Discussion. Agenda item.
Okay. Item number 5 is yet another cost of living adjustment for a policeman.
Pretty straightforward. Discussion. Agenda item.
Item number 6 is an executive session item, the PFCA agreement. Item number 7 is an issue that staff brought up in the recent staff meeting. And I've included in your agenda packets under the Personnel and Management Committee tab a copy of the the Borough Connect policy that council adopted back in 2021. And the reason that we brought this up is because we have a number of issues where people come up here and say, no one gets back to me, no one calls me back. And I think when we went through this last year, we showed you that our phone system tracks phone calls going outbound. We average 7,000 calls a month. We're calling somebody. What tends to happen with a lot of people is they fall in one of three categories. One, they've called us or asked for something or reported something that didn't say, I need someone to call me back. Another one is we have people that call with issues, and I can think of various issues. We've gone out to meet with people, either the engineer, public works staff, myself. We've told them, we've given them an answer, they don't like it, so they continue to call. And then, quite honestly, we get some phone calls, some requests from people that are unrealistic, and I'm struggling not to be. Some of them are absurd. We literally have someone who asked us to move a deer crossing sign so the deer would cross elsewhere. How much time should the staff devote to these kind of things?
0.
So, but I guess that's the question is because, so we talked about this a year ago, we adopted a policy, and the policy that we're required to follow says in there, we don't have the staffing nor the time to call every single request back. Doesn't mean we don't look into it, doesn't mean we don't address things. Somebody calls us about a pothole, we don't call them back and talk to them all the time. But the pothole gets patched, and I can document that, I can show that it's documented. But then people come up to the podium and say, nobody called me back for 3 months. And quite honestly, in one of the most recent cases, that wasn't true. In fact, the comment that was made was, when your guy came out to visit my house. Well, if nobody got back to you, how'd I send a guy out there? So we keep kind of getting stuck in this circular problem, and staff asked me last Wednesday, so what's the rule here? Like, do we just keep calling, do I have to keep calling back the guy that wants the deer crossing sign moved and explain to him? How many times do I have to explain to him that won't work? Because he did. He called back and said, why haven't you moved it? And I guess that's where staff's getting a little frustrated in this thing, like how much time should we devote to some of these things? Or if somebody says to you, hey, somebody calls up and says, I got a problem on my street, and we call them back and say, no, that's a county road or a state road. They keep calling back and saying, or they come up here and say, no one got back to me. No, we got back to you. You didn't like the answer.
I think the expectation is that, and again, this is my opinion, is that staff has to have the discretion on when they need to return those calls. But that discretion that is being given to staff can't be used inappropriately, right? We have to make sure that the people who have valid issues that need to be addressed, that they're addressing them. And at least from my position, I see that that's being done. Now, we're always going to have people who have an issue and complain, and that's okay, right? But at the end of the day, we have this customer service policy. I don't know is this posted? Do we have this posted?
No, but on the Borough Connect form at the bottom in big red underlined letters, it says exactly that.
Okay.
Actually, you're right. He's right. It is on the form itself.
And it says there too, if you want a status update, here's the phone number to call.
Right.
I think that right there shows you guys are trying. You're being honest that you don't have the manpower to call everybody back. It's not your fault if people don't read that.
Yeah, I think it might be worth.
They're the ones that complained
Right.
to council, to you guys, and to myself.
Well, and that's why I like the InfoTrack system to keep track of who's calling where, if people got called back.
That was
It's
the
so
question I was
important.
gonna ask. As long as we have something internal, that everything that comes in and you document, say, Mr. Dern called in about the deer crossing sign, he wanted it moved. Instead of you having to call him back, if you can internally document it, that Mike Thomas, saw this complaint 10/2, 10/21, and this is something that is not feasible, therefore it cannot be done. I think that's enough.
But
So
that's
if
already
someone
been an
does
issue
come
track.
before
That's what
us
you have,
and
It is-
says-
it is documented. It's
Okay,
documented in the
then I
issue.
think you're covered, because I think the staff has a very good common sense to know this deserves a call back, this deserves a follow-up, or this is just something that, you know, it just can't go anywhere. So if that's documented and someone comes up to there and says, no one got back to me, then you can get on your computer and look, oh yeah, you called here 9/27/2021, and we did look into it, and this was what we said, and you didn't like, you know, we don't have to say you didn't like the answer, but of course, there you go.
That's the answer.
Yeah, then I think as long as it's documented internally, then common
But how-
sense on the staff, I think, will proceed and do the steering.
Yeah,
Here's what's happened in the past. People have come here and complained. We didn't know they were coming. If they didn't know they were coming, it's just their right to come here.
Right.
And they're complaining, but where's he gonna have all that information to be able to respond back that night?
Well, he may
The
not
other
be able to
thing-
respond that night.
The other thing
he's never
is,
going to be able to respond.
council
Sometimes
does
we
not,
can't, but
defends
in
them
most
and
cases
doesn't
we
defend the staff.
Well, that has happened too often in the past.
That has happened.
Well, that wasn't really my intention
I
of
know, but I
bringing this
brought it
topic
up.
up. I really, like, you know, because this keeps happening. We had, and
So what are you proposing that we do?
well, I think the policy works. I do. I just want to make sure that you guys, that we're all on the same page, that everybody understands. I do think, you know, we do, you know, if I call somebody back, or if Dave calls somebody back, or if Maria calls somebody, it is documented in the issue track ticket. Date, time, call, and you can double check it against the phone record, because our IP phone system logs every outgoing phone call. So, I mean, it's easy to check. But I guess where we're struggling with, and maybe I'll just, I'm trying to give a real-world example without giving away too much details. We had an individual that contacted us in a neighborhood about a street light. We went out and looked at it. The police department felt that it was not an issue. We reported back to that person. We had the police department investigate it. They did not believe it was an issue. That person would not take that as an answer, so I brought it to you all, and we discussed it, and you all said no. And I'm still getting communications from this person saying, when are you going to do it? And her, whoops, the last communication was, you haven't gotten back to me in 3 months. And I think that's where staff struggles, because, you know, like, and those are the people that are the most vocal about nobody getting back to them. But that person has been told on at least 2 occasions, we've investigated this, we've considered, you guys told me not, we didn't agree, you didn't agree with it. But yet, the issue won't go away, and the person is still considering.
What about a letter from the solicitor explaining what steps were taking place, and that we now, the last sentence, we now consider this matter closed?
I mean, you know, we would be doing that more often than you think, quite honestly, but I don't know that we need to come up with a new policy, as long as everybody understands that those things are going to continue to happen. And I'm still telling staff that once we've said definitively, when it comes to you and you guys say no or yes, we're done here.
So the customer service policy's on the form, right? Do you think we should put it someplace also more readily identifiable on the website that says
Yeah, we can post
Borough
it.
Customer Service Policy, like in flashing red letters or something? I don't know.
Because not everybody knows how to navigate.
Because if
the
someone
whole
doesn't
website.
submit it, they don't know what the customer service policy is. Maybe we can at least update that on the website so that it's readily visible to people, so they know this is the borough's.
We'll have it done tomorrow.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, opening
Okay,
page
there's
or
no
something.
agenda item for this, I just wanted
Right.
to have a discussion with council about it.
Yeah, I mean, just again, I guess it's my job tonight to be the dissenting opinion here, but I'm happy to do it. It's the few people that aren't happy that always complain the loudest. We all know that. That's nature. It's the way people are. If they don't get what they want or what they feel they're entitled to, they're going to complain about it. But one thing else I think we have to remember, everybody's conscious of the staff and what they go through here, believe me. But, you know, it is kind of a customer service business we're in here as a community. And the people that live in this community are our customers.
Agreed.
And if they don't feel they're being served, for whatever reason, Mike, wrongly or rightly, you know, I'm not saying it's anything anybody's doing wrong, but we have to make some personal contact with them at some point and just try and alleviate that. I think that's the biggest bitch I get now, I'll tell you the truth, from everybody is, no, but I can't get a hold of anybody, rightly or wrongly. And I know there are ways to do it, but a lot of people aren't savvy with the computer to get on the jot forms and do their thing. Phone systems, you know, they just, how many people I've talked to, oh, I just call, I hang up, they give me the answering machine. Well, how do you expect us to be able to get back to you if you keep hanging up?
And we don't
You know,
have
I
that.
try to, get.
And you know, I'm perfectly okay with them calling us, like,
That's
as
what
their
I said.
councilman.
I
We're
said, "You're
their
calling me."
elected
Right.
representation
Right.
for the borough. If they don't feel like they're getting what they need, then they should reach out to us. Like, we all have the voicemail, the email, I mean, I know, because I get them. I get the voice messages. I got one the other day about people speeding down New Texas Road.
Did you give him Harry's number?
No, not
They
yet.
call me,
But I mean, you know.
I know they.
was it Terry, by the way? Was her name Terry that called you?
Yeah, it was.
About her dog being killed?
Yes, yes.
6 months ago?
Yes.
Now she wants speed bumps.
I know, yes.
Well, I called her back and said, how are they gonna plow the road?
Right.
She's not
So,
happy with that answer.
I know, I heard. So there's a lot of mechanisms that the community can use when they don't feel like they're getting what they should be getting from borough staff. And I would encourage, you know, them to use use that. I mean, that's, you know, that's what it's there for.
That's
Yeah,
the
that's exactly
last
what
line
Yeah.
of defense,
Yep.
you know what I mean, for people that feel like they're
Yeah.
not getting their money's worth. I
Most of
agree.
the time I hear from people, and I get a hold of you guys, it's something like, so you're on vacation. You know, it's a lot of times it's basic things like that, and people just don't have the patience. So I agree, you know, maybe we need to do another PR blitz and get
Well,
make sure that people know about the Borough Connect form and that.
We do get phone calls, and I think, I don't think it's just us, I think it's the world in general, but there's this sort of like, I want to call back today.
Yes.
Call back now.
Yeah.
And if Dave's on vacation, if I'm out of the office, you know, it doesn't happen, and then they call back the next day, and now they're angry. I don't know how you fix it. I mean, that's just a world
Well, you can't
problem,
fix
but-
everything, but you can certainly, you know, I think it's just a respect for people. People don't feel they're getting it back right now. Not everybody, the people that call us.
Yes.
You know, that's the overwhelming complaint, is that. They don't feel that they're being served because nobody gets back to me.
Well, see, I do.
I know you disagree
I
with that,
disagree
but I'm
with
just
that.
telling you what I hear, and maybe there again, you know, I always still believe that there's a person that could, a part-time receptionist position that could answer most of these calls without going anywhere else in the building here, or the new building, whatever. But I still think that personal contact helps alleviate a lot of the,
And we agree, and I think if you know, look, it's no secret that one of the staff's biggest opponents was sitting 3 people to my left. And I think one of the biggest things that Harry learned when being here was the degree to which we do provide customer service out there. You know, anybody walking past there, seeing anybody in the lobby, myself included, if anybody is standing out there, can I help you, sir? Can I help you, ma'am?
Yeah, I've seen it myself.
Everybody does it. Nobody here has that's not my job mentality. You know, I will get a permit for somebody, I will provide directions to somebody, and I'm no different than everybody else here. And I think we do make every effort to make every phone call and respond to every email, but admittedly, I definitely don't get to every one of them.
And that's why I said if people don't think they're getting what they need, they should reach out to their
Yeah.
elected officials. I mean, like, case in point, the individual that called about New Texas Road. I talked with her for a while. She didn't realize that New Texas was a state road. She didn't know
I
that.
told her that at least twice.
Well, when I talked to her, she said she wasn't aware of that. I don't know if I talked to her before you did, but
Well, it doesn't
at the end of the
matter.
day,
I've spoken
sometimes
to the
people
lady.
just need to talk to someone, right?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
oftentimes they feel better once they have the opportunity to, you know, discuss their grievance with someone.
Well,
So,
I'm not gonna say that there are not people speeding on New Tech, there are.
Right, right.
But we can't have a patrol car sitting there all the time. Those people are breaking the law and ignoring it.
Right.
Putting speed bumps in is not
Well,
gonna do
that's-
any
I-
good.
right.
But, yeah, there's issues there, but then we got those issues all over the borough.
Mm-hmm.
70 mile an hour on Shearer Road.
but I think the point is when it comes to the complaints that residents have, is they have different avenues in which they can go and express those complaints if they don't think they're getting what they should be from you guys. So, okay, any other discussion on that item?
Again, not an agenda.
Right, okay, next.
Item number 8 is the police batons. I've included in your agenda packet a memo and some information from the chief regarding the police batons. And I don't know if you all remember last year when we went through this, as part of the non-lethal training that we did, that we went through, police officers went through, I didn't go through it. One of the items that was recommended by Master Caruso was this baton. Unfortunately, the baton itself could not work with the duty belts, and they just could not make it work. So we were able to, after much finagling and consternation, we were able to get them to take them back and use a credit. But now we need new batons. So we found something that we think will work with the duty belt and the taser. Unfortunately, we didn't budget for those this year, and it's a $4,300 expense. So I have to have council authorize that expense if you would like me to get that.
I actually got to hold one of those batons. They were garbage. They were absolute garbage. I think we need to give the police officers everything they need to police the community. And $4,600,
From lethal?
that's nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, non-lethal means it's money well spent.
Yep. Okay, agenda item.
Okay, item number 9 is an executive session item regarding the proposed Penteco injection well.
So just one quick note on that, just to make people aware, because we do have to discuss this in executive session. There was an article in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette on the 27th about Penteco planning on a second shale wastewater injection well in Plum. Couple of notes relative to this. They said that the permit application for the second well is under EPA review. For those of you who are familiar with the process, goes EPA, DEP. They also have to come through the borough to get approval. The current well is in operation. It's unfortunate that we went through such a time-consuming and expensive process to fight the injection well, and it resulted in it being denied by the Commonwealth Court. None of the individuals here on council want the injection well, but now it appears that they're back and they want to put an additional well in place. So we're going to be discussing that, discussing our options. I actually contacted Chad Nicholson from the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund today. They're the organization that is fighting the injection well in Grant Township, for those of you guys who are familiar with that. I won't go into a lot of details about our discussion, but there are two entirely different scenarios, and we're not going to be able to pursue the same type of process that they're going through in Grant Township. That being said, we are going to discuss that in executive session with our solicitor, and we will be communicating on what our position is going to be relative to Penteco's attempts to put an additional injection well in place. I'll also mention this in my president's comments next week for those folks who aren't watching the broadcast that we have for the work session. I want to be completely transparent relative to what our position is. We just have to strategize on what the best suitable methods are for us to potentially fight this again. So we'll discuss that in executive session. Next item.
Item number 10 is there's kind of multiple items here, so bear with me. So the first item is a proposed repair and restoration project on Plum Creek Park right across the street. I've been working with Mary Wilson from the Penn State Cooperative Extension. Mary's sole job is education and outreach for the Cooperative Extension on these very issues. And she was looking for, the Cooperative Extension was looking for a partner to do a repair and restoration project. So repair and restoration is just simply recreating the natural habitat around a stream, right? Because as development occurs within the stream, the things that we tend to do, whether it's individuals or businesses, tend to, I was going to say destroy, but maybe it is destroy. They tend to eliminate the natural barriers and protections that nature intended for a water course. So what do most people do? They mow up to the edge of the road. They throw grass clippings over the edge of the road. And what the stream beds need is vegetation and trees and shrubs and a root system that can hold the bank in place so it doesn't erode away during high water flows. They have been looking for a partner to do a demonstration project so that they can demonstrate that we can reestablish that natural riparian buffer within the stream without, impeding people's use of their property if they have property on a stream, because everybody, they want to use that, they want to access it. Their kids want to go play, they want to fish in the stream, whatever it is. They want to demonstrate, and you can demonstrate. There's been plenty of places that have done it. So we went out and visited a site out in Little Pine Creek in Shaler Township. And they've done a really, and I've put pictures of that project, before and after pictures in the project in the agenda packets to show what they've done. And so the idea is simply this. We will, in a partnership between the borough, the Cooperative Extension, and Trout Unlimited, and I've actually even approached the Renton Rod and Gun Club about participating as well, because we're going to need volunteers to do a lot of this. But essentially what it is it's reestablishing the vegetation along the stream bank right out here, just downstream of the bridge up here at the ball fields. From about the ball fields, from the bridge all the way down to New Texas Road. So we'll be reestablishing planting, so they put in, there's a name for them, spikes of different tree species as well as wetland plants. And then also doing, and this is how the Trout Unlimited partnership came up, partnering with them to create a natural trout habitat. And that's a sort of a twofold process and benefit, because what you do is you create these areas along the stream bank that slow down water flow, that eliminate some of the erosion and the scouring on one side of the stream, and also create a trout habitat. So I've got some pictures in there if you take a look at the before and after pictures of that stream, the little Pine Creek. I'm happy to say that we were able to get a $20,000 grant to do this.
It's fantastic.
Most of the work will be volunteers and some of our staff. I've got a gentleman from Trout Unlimited who has done this in a number of places up and down the East Coast. It's going to help work with our staff to be able to teach them how to use, when I say staff, I mean our Public Works Department, our heavy equipment operators, to teach them how to build these structures. They essentially use timbers. When I say timbers, I mean giant logs that get driven into the ground in a U shape on specific areas along the stream bank to prevent that scouring and to reestablish the bank and also create that trout habitat. The goal of this is, the ultimate goal of this is to create a demonstration site so that we can tell other people in the community to come and look. No, see, you can fix this. This can be fixed, and you can still do it while maintaining access to the stream itself. Because I know that's something that a lot of people whose properties are on streams want to maintain. They don't, they like that natural look. And so the goal of this is to create that demonstration project that can accomplish all those goals. So the motion for next week would just simply be to authorize us to move forward with this, with the grant funds, and to proceed. And this would be a spring 2022 project.
Okay. That's
Sounds
no-brainer.
good.
Love it.
Discussion?
So excited.
Good start.
So
It can be done in a lot of places, sure.
yeah, there's a lot of places that it can that can be replicated in.
Well, this could be the
Plum.
model for that.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
this is
good
great.
idea.
Absolutely phenomenal.
So the second part of that is, as part of this process and getting to know the people at the Cooperative Extension and working with Mrs. Wilson, we had a lot of conversation about MS4s and all these other issues. So we had wanted to start, prior to COVID, the staff had wanted to start these borough local government education programs on a number of different things, state roads, plowing, snow and ice plowing. Because of all this, everything that's going on right now with the Stormwater Task Force and the focus on stormwater, Mary and I got to talking about a first program that we wanted to kick off. And so we were brainstorming about, and we've been working to put together a certified local stormwater management stewardship program. And as we've been working on putting that together, which would be for any resident that wants to come in and would get certified by this cooperative extension in this program. However, part of that discussion, and that is still the ultimate goal, part of that discussion was that the key stakeholders in Plum and in, that being council, and in the other surrounding municipalities that are in this watershed, Penn Hills, Verona, Oakmont, Monroeville, because Monroeville's in the Turtle Creek watershed, and even Murraysville. We've come up with this idea where we would like to hold a stakeholders primer to educate everybody on all these issues. And they've got a great track record at the Cooperative Extension and some of their strategic partnerships with other groups, other like-minded groups, of putting together these educational programs. We're trying to figure out how we're going to do this because it might get a little unwieldy with so many municipalities, so we may have to break it down into multiple nights or something like that. But we're really asking for commitment from the borough to move forward with this project, commitment for you guys to participate, and we're going to be reaching out to the other communities as well. Mary and I have been working on putting together the curriculum for this. We promise not to make it too, engineering and scientific heavy, but I think there's an awful lot of information that you guys want to understand these issues better in some of these projects like this riparian buffer project. I think that would be extremely helpful. And then, the next step from there would be much more of a public outreach program, concluding with the stewardship program that we talked about. So I don't really need it to be an agenda item right now. I just need to know if that's something you guys are willing to move forward with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely should, brief it at the next task force meeting as well, that
Yeah.
we want to,
Yes.
proceed with it, because I know the members would all participate as well, so.
Yeah, and that's what we were trying to figure out, like, do we limit it to just council that first night, or do we want to try and get, because if we want to invite all the communities, it could get kind of unwieldy.
Oh, I see
but-
what you're saying as far as numbers.
Yeah, and so-
Well, I mean, we should just, make them aware of it, and maybe if there's a small
They can have a
number of.
representative.
Yeah, someone from the task force that can come
Yeah.
and just.
Well, that's something can be
Yeah.
decided on still. I just,
Okay.
at this point, I just
No,
want to
but
make sure.
it's a fabulous idea,
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, good idea.
Yes.
education's good.
Yes. We
And
need
by
to
the way,
educate
all of this qualifies as points, if you will, for our MS4 program.
Right, exactly.
Education and outreach.
Better
Good.
yet.
So that's like a double whammy there. I like it.
Item number 11 is the Mitel phone system proposal. So as we were looking at moving into the new building, the phone system that we have now, the IP phone system, I think there's the one out here, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not end of life, but it is, Jason, 5 years end of life?
Yeah, about 5 years.
And we're not going to be into the building for another, year. We met with our provider, service provider for this, Mitel, to talk to them about, we're going to need more extensions. We have a lot more offices in the new building. They proposed to us a telephone services, Jason, help me out with the terminology, telephone system as a service proposal, cloud-based IP phone system. The long and short of it is it adds, and this actually kind of dovetails into some of the conversations we had about being able to be accessed by the public and accessing the public better. So some of the things that the system would allow us to do is your cell phone can now could be your phone extension. So, for example, a lot of people don't want, the chief of police, when he's out and he gets a message, he doesn't want to make a return phone call because now everybody's got the chief of police cell phone number, right? So one of the benefits of this system is that your phone, it's an app on your phone, and your phone system just acts as an extension. So the caller ID on the person calling him back is just getting Plum Boro caller
Right,
ID.
over, right.
It has a lot more functionality for you all as well, because those same extensions would, your cell phone will be able to act as the extension as well. Jason can, there's a whole other host of bells and whistles associated with this. The long and short of it, and they would provide us with all new phones at no cost.
Oh, wow.
The long and short of it is the service is about, when you look at the hardware that we have now and the fees that we pay now for the system that we have, and when you do the math, not including capital costs in the next 5 to 10 years for a new phone system, because like I said, this one's going to be end of life soon. This is going to add about $10,000 a year to our phone bill, our phone expenses, not our phone bill necessarily. So staff kind of kicked this around the other day in our staff meeting, and we were just sort of on the fence on it, and, you know, we thought, well, let's just ask council what they think. I'm really, you know, giving you the 20,000-foot version. Jason could probably do a much better job of explaining the functionality, and if you guys would like to look at some of this functionality or be part of a presentation, we just kind of wanted to get your feedback on, you know, do you think it's something worth pursuing at this point?
I mean, it sounds reasonable. Jason, you and I can probably, you know, geek out on the details, because one of the things we'd have to look at is the redundancy options that they have. Typically with the cloud-based service providers, when they, you know, have these SaaS applications, you have to pay extra for redundancy. And I don't know what the redundancy options are built into like the contracts, but the devil's in the detail. So we can talk offline some of the gotchas with this, but it sounds like a reasonable service that we might want to leverage. We just have to make sure that, you know, we have the appropriate amount of redundancy built into the system, and it's not going to cost us over, you know, because when you buy SaaS services like this, you're paying, you know, pretty much for the use of it, like monthly, and some of the redundancy we want to build into this could make the cost a lot more than what it looks like up front. So we can talk in details about this and see what we can maybe get them to structure out that would work for us.
And the proposal that's in the agenda packet is slightly outdated. We're working on a reduced pricing plan based on government pricing. What you have is general business pricing.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
So what we're doing to narrow it down is just, we're buying a service and they're supplying the fund.
And all the backbone equipment.
Right,
for it,
all the
yes.
other stuff, all the
Yes.
hardware and everything.
See,
So
right now,
pay-
right now we have, I want to call it a PRD, it's not a PRD, what is it? PRI.
Digital circuit.
We have the PRI that we have to buy, and then there's a fee, there's a monthly fee through Comcast for the PRI. We'd be eliminating all that, and this would just be an internet connection. Some of the other things that piqued our interest on a service like this was, it is seamless for people working from home, and as we, you know, as
That's
we know,
what I
the
was-
world's changing.
Oh, yeah.
This makes it completely seamless. I can still make phone calls. We can actually put these phones, right? I mean, the phone can actually go to our house.
Yeah, if you come in and out of the office on a phone call, so you're on your cell phone, using it as a landline, if you sit down at your desk and you
Pick up
pick
the
up
line.
your physical landline, the call
It's there.
immediately transfers, and vice versa.
That's nice.
So, you know, it's seamless mobility, cloud-based.
Yep.
It's not reliant upon internet here. If there's an outage here, which we've experienced with our landline.
Yeah.
As long
Right.
as
It's
you
all in
have
the
a
cloud.
cell signal, you have a landline.
And we have redundant, we will have, once it's done, redundant internet carriers at the new facility.
Good.
So I guess basically I just wanted to make sure that, you know, like, is this something you want us to continue pursuing?
I
Given
think
that it's
so.
going to be.
Oh, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think so.
Do we have to make a decision by a certain time with them putting the building up with the
No.
hardware?
No, well, we did have to renew with Comcast moving forward, but we didn't renew with the PRI.
Okay.
But, because they said we can add that later, so, and we still have a year, well,
Okay.
maybe not a year, but we still have a good 8-9 months to do this.
Good.
Okay. Does not need to be an agenda item, though.
Yeah, you're not really getting anything yet, you're just getting.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure you guys.
Moving
were on board
forward
with it. Item number 12 is the landslide at Larry Mills. So we had a complaint filed with the Conservation District about the dump site area at Larry Mills. So I just want to make sure that everybody is clear on what that is. We have dump sites, we have had dump sites for many years, all municipalities do. As we do pipe work, we build a trench for a 4-foot pipe. There's more dirt than needs to go back in the hole. We have fill sites that we use. We always maintain a different fill site of less than 1 acre, because at 1 acre, an NPDES permit is required. We're not, we're not skirting any laws, we're not skirting any regulations. It's not required if it's less than 1 acre. But we do work very closely with Annie from the Conservation District, and she typically is out to all of our sites to look at them just to make sure that she doesn't have any issues or see any problems. She's out here quite a bit working with us on all of the other complaints that we file on people who are violating a lot of the regulations. So when she's out here and working with us, we ask her to take a look at things for us. So what happened at Larry Mills was there was an existing dump site that had been there for We weren't even filling, it was a fill site that we weren't even filling on anymore. It was behind the top soccer fields up at Larry Mills there. If you drive up to that top parking lot, we're heading down the hill towards Parkside Estates. Soccer came to us at the end of last season because they had problems with parking, specifically at their tournament, and said, can you, so what we do when we have a fill site is we cut a keyway in, we put the fill site in, and then we kind of build it up to an elevation, and we leave it sloped, so we have, no greater than a 2-to-1 slope. Soccer came to us, it might have been 2 years ago, and said, they were having issues with parking spaces. Can you try and give us some additional parking spaces? So we did, we went in and graded it up, the top off a little bit 2 or 3 years ago, whatever it was. And we threw some millings down so they would have, so it wasn't a muddy parking lot for them to park on. Well, in about May or June of this year, Dave, I can't remember, that whole area started to slide. So the work that we were doing back there most recently was repairing that slide. In order to repair the slide, we went in, we grubbed the area because now we had to build, we had to go, and you have to get in front of the slide, Bob can probably explain this a heck of a lot better than me. We had to get in front of the slide, we grubbed the area out, we cut a bench in, we put a drainage system in so that you don't have water ponding at the toe of the slope, the base of the hill. We built that all back up. That entire area is about 0.6 acres. It doesn't require an MPDS permit, and it was not done in relation to stormwater at all. It was done to repair the slide that would have gotten much worse if we hadn't done something. Before we did any of that work, we had Annie, Dave, I can't think of his last name, sorry.
Fox.
We had Ann out and told her we met with her, told her exactly what we were planning on doing, asked her if she had any issues or problems. She said, absolutely not. You're doing the right thing. This is you have to do this. That work out there had nothing to do with stormwater. We did no stormwater work. It was purely done to repair the slide. Now, we did have about 3,000 cubic yards of dirt we had some excess dirt from our municipal site that we had to get off site. And Duquesne Light took that, and they used that dirt for whatever it is that they did over down there. I don't know.
At that location? Or?
Well, it's adjacent to where we were working, yes.
When
So
they're
So
putting
Duquesne
that
Light
new-
has
the
project work.
property's a butt right there.
Okay, all right.
They're putting that new line over, that big overhead
Yes.
line.
But that's Duquesne Light's-
Transmission line.
Yes,
Responsibility.
but that was dirt from our municipal site
I see.
that we were looking for, and we saved about $225,000 in having them take that dirt from us.
Well, are there issues of what they did with the dirt that that the conservation district is
I don't
concerned
know. I
about?
don't know
or-
that the conservation district has said anything
With
about
Duquesne
that.
Light?
Yes.
No, not that I know.
Okay.
But I just wanted to report that that's what that work was that we were doing. That was repairing a landslide, and that was the only reason for the
So
work.
where do we currently stand with the conservation district?
Well, we did meet with Ann, and we are going to have, we believe, based on our GIS system, in fact, I've included a copy of it. If you look in your agenda packets, from the GIS system, what we've done is, so if you look in Roads, Equipment, and Grounds tab, number 12, Larry Mills.
Yep, I see it.
So if you look at the site there, now there's two photos there. One, these are both out of our GIS system, and one is from 2017 satellite imagery, and one is from July of 2021 satellite imagery, so it's very recent.
This is 3/4 of an acre.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
new one looks smaller.
Yep. Oh, yeah. it does.
So, measuring on our GIS system is not an exact science, but we believe it is less than 3/4 of an acre. We did meet with Annie, who also, Ann's comment to us was, if you're not sure, then have it surveyed. So we do have a survey crew going out to survey it, just to confirm that it is less than an acre.
Okay.
The new one looks smaller than the old one.
It does.
Well, they're the same site,
I know, but if you look at the topography, the 2021 one looks smaller than the 2017.
That's just because the way the line was drawn.
Yeah,
It's further
yeah.
away from the edge of the field, Paul.
Yeah.
It's the same site.
It
It's
is,
just
yeah.
a little differently drawn, that's
Yep.
all.
It's harder because we're trying to draw based on the existing contours from the satellite imagery. Once they do the actual survey, we'll be able to confirm that it's less than an acre.
But
Okay.
Annie's aware of it and she's okay with
Yeah.
it,
Yes.
of course.
Item number, that's not an agenda item.
Come on.
Okay, so Annie got back to me as well. She's putting the area at .910 of an acre. Now, I asked her, how did you measure it? Well, she didn't have, the proper equipment to do it. She was using some GPS, application, and she came up with that. Guys, I've lived here for 53 freaking years. I seen what happened up there. .910 of an acre is just that slope. What you guys build out on the top part adds to that. That's more like 3 acres up there. But, I mean,
no, it's not.
we can go back and forth on that. And what Annie also said was, I asked her, I sent you guys the video. There's no sediment barriers anywhere up there. Now, she did say, if it is .910 of an acre, that they don't need any type of sediment basins, traps in that area. But you've seen from the videos what a mess it was. And what you didn't have are the sediment barriers that catch the water coming down full of erosion. So that's an issue, guys. You can say whatever you want. I mean, as far as what I'm getting, and she's supposed to get back to me with an official report. So until I get that, I can relay to you what she said. Now,
She's
3/4 of an
communicating with
acre.
us as well.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what the official report says,
Yeah.
and we'll look at the survey and.
Yeah, if we've done something wrong, I'm sure we'll try and
Yeah.
rectify that.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, Dave, we can drive down New Texas Road where Dan O'Neill lives, the referee for Plum Soccer. He was for years. They cut a little ramp in to get to that lot around that bad bend there. They got the silt fence up right there
Yeah,
for
well-
that little area. We're talking, okay, let's pretend it is .910 of an acre. And I challenge every one of you to go up and look at that. Maybe there's sediment barriers in now, but with that video, there wasn't. And it shouldn't be like that, guys. You know that.
So I think we'll take a look and see what comes back from the Conservation District and what's recommended. I mean, whether it's a best practice versus what's required, right? I think we need to take all that into consideration when we get the report back.
The last item is the Chaparral Storm Sewer Rehab Project. I believe we talked about this prior to this, and it was on a somewhat unrelated matter in an executive session. You guys may recall. There's a storm pipe that runs in between two houses down by Chaparral. And it was installed many years ago, close to one of the homes. The pipe is a little bit deflected and deteriorated and needs to be replaced, but we don't feel comfortable doing the excavation on that property in the vicinity of the home. So an option is to do what is typically called slip lining or pipe bursting. Basically what they do is they insert a flexible heated pipe inside the existing one, and it cures or hardens. You do lose a little bit of diameter, but you actually gain a little bit of velocity because now you don't have any joints or anything. So we do have a price of $23,337 to do that slip line. It's about 180 feet linear. It's exactly 180 linear feet of existing pipe. And if you guys, on the Stormwater Task Force, if you recall from our monthly reports, that's not out of the ordinary for a total cost of our projects as you've seen them as we've reported them. This was not a budgeted item for this year as well, so that would need to, and this would be off a state contract, doesn't have to be bid, but it was not a budgeted item, so it would have to be approved.
Okay. Any discussion?
Needs done.
Yeah. Agenda item.
Okay. That's all.
Okay, any other comments from members of the public? Yes, ma'am? Yes, please.
Deborah Bell, 518 Vale Drive. We all know we're getting flooded again. The storm sewer's kicking out 3.5 to 4 foot of water every hard flood. The sanitary sewer is ridiculous. It's staying in the air, the lid floats for at least 36 hours after a heavy storm. 9/15 was the last storm. My dad called the borough, asked for them to come up and lime it between 516 Vale and 518 because both those sanitary sewers are exploding again. They were told the borough would be out on 9/17.
Is it the municipal authority or the?
Municipal authority.
Okay.
And Mr. Vento had said that I should come to council.
No, I'm just
Right.
making sure that we differentiate.
Right.
So it's the municipal authority that should have come up, or they didn't, or did, or whatever.
They didn't.
Okay.
It took them 10 days to come, and as you can imagine, the drying out smell of your neighbor's business, to say the least. I had passed there at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon while the storm was going on, and it was just gushing. The following evening at 8 o'clock, the sanitary storm lid was still in the air. The storm sewer across from my dad's property at 518, 517 is not taking the water again. And I don't want a repeat of what we went through 26 months ago.
Jody, I don't understand what you mean by it's still in the air. What
The sanitary sewer?
The smell.
Oh,
No,
no,
it's-
the lid is in the air this high.
And it was still,
from coming out of it?
Yeah, it just spews. The one at 516 Vale and 518 Vale, both of them spew out.
I mean, this has been going on for years and years.
Well-
We thought it was the storm sewer.
The storm sewer initially, we moved into the borough in May of 1968. We were there exactly 1 week, and we had 7.5 to 8 feet of water in the street. There were people came down and lost their cars. He has lost 3 back walls on built-in pools the third time he filled it in. What happens is the water comes from Regency and Deborah Jane behind his property and comes down over the hill. There's 2 French drains on that property.
so now you're talking stormwater water.
Well, we're getting it every direction from Deborah Jane and Regency. The storm sewer itself we're between 3.5 and 4 foot of water every heavy rain. And the sanitary sewer, whatever it is 516 and 518, they're coming up every time.
Is there a creek that runs down Universal that
Way
He's nowhere
down.
near
that
that.
He's
storm
on
sewer goes
Vale.
into, that storm sewer doesn't go directly into the creek right there?
No, what we were
No.
told in '68 when we moved here and we had the issues, Tony O'Block at that time was the mayor, and he went through everything. And at that time, he found out that the sewers, the cement trucks, when they were building Regency, had emptied their trucks into the storm sewers, and when they were like washing them out, and it filled it up. Well, we're not building in Regency anymore, but it's still happening. I mean, like 2 years ago, he lost washer, dryer, a stove, all brand-new cupboards in his laundry room alone. He's since replaced it, and the guys actually, when they came, said they had never seen it, but he has them like 2 foot off the ground now, built with womanized wood. It's getting ridiculous. And at 86 years old, he's not cleaning everybody's business up. And what we get from the municipal authority, and they're my next stop on the 19th.
I was gonna say, what have they said?
This is what we were told. We don't know what you people expect. It's old, it's an old plan, it's old lines, and it's old sores.
Who did you get that from?
One of the borough workers that came up to throw
Borough workers or
the municipal
or
workers.
municipal
Okay?
municipal authority? Okay.
So my dad's answer to him was, well, then, why aren't these people in Regency, why aren't we getting old taxes? Our taxes go up, we get flooded. You can only replace, I mean, like when Dad lost everything 26 months ago, when his insurance company came in, the insurance company said to him, I have never seen in my life sewers like that are in this plan. We thought, he said to my dad, he goes, sewers are supposed to take water. not run it down the street. And that was from Nationwide.
Would a back, I mean, I don't know anything about plumbing. Does he have a backflow?
We all have backflow
preventer?
meters.
Yeah.
And you're still getting that in the basement?
Oh, now it stops at the garage door, but it's still coming up
Out of
in the side
out of the
yards.
side?
Comes out of the vent.
I mean,
We
it's,
need somebody from the municipal authority to be.
Mike has
That's why I
been
told her
there.
to come here. She needs to hear some people need to
No,
hear
no,
this.
I understand.
I
No,
mean,
I'm not-
Mike has seen
no.
it firsthand. We went to 26 months ago when everybody worried about the business merchants on 286, okay? We all went to the municipal authority and went to one of their meetings. They wouldn't tell us when the meeting was, but I got this date this time. And at that point, they decided they would put new backflow. They would put backflow meters in the people who showed up at the meeting in their driveways. My dad was one. And they broke a corner of the driveway, so they replaced that. We have had our sewer line replaced from the street up to the house. Everything has been replaced. The borough went and checked it. We're good. But we still get all this crap in the side yards between 18 and 16.
Okay.
So what we should.
I'm gonna make an official thing here. Mike, I need you to contact Howard over there tomorrow. And I personally want an answer. If someone gave her dad that answer, that there's nothing they can do, that's ridiculous.
I mean, that was what your guys told them. Old
Well,
sewers,
yeah,
old
we can't-
lines.
Yeah, I don't want to do hearsay, because that doesn't get us anywhere. I want an official explanation from Howard of what's going on.
What was the date?
Are you going to the next
15th.
municipal?
Oh, yeah, we're all going.
9:15,
We got a bunch
I
of people
believe.
who have been
Well-
flooded. 9:15 was the last time it came up.
That's
9:16, he talked to them. They were supposed to come on the 17th in Lyme, and they showed up 10 days later.
Well, I don't.
I mean, the
yeah.
next thing is, short of being like the bad guys, and he told them, his next step is he's going to the county. Because this is a health risk.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I mean, Mr. Dern, would you want,
No.
would you want everybody's poop
No.
and toilet paper in your yard?
No. And I mean, I can't speak for, like, if they tell you they're going to be there tomorrow and 3 things happen tonight that they have to go address and it takes them a couple of days, I can understand that.
Well, that's what he said. Even if they'd have come out on Monday.
Right.
But to show up 10 days after the event,
But to have someone tell your dad, there's nothing we can do, that's unacceptable.
and I mean,
So I
and that's
want-
what he
I
said
want-
to
I
them.
want official, so we have something.
And he told them, he goes, my next stop, he goes, I'm going to bring the county in because this is a
Well,
health
that's,
issue.
that's fine too, but let's get this for Monday, so if you want to come back, no, wait, our meeting's not Monday, right?
Wednesday.
It's
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
right.
And their
Because of
meeting is the
Columbus
19th.
Wait a
Well,
minute,
our-
it wasn't, it could have been one of the field people that made that statement.
Well, when he made the
They
call,
wouldn't know about it over there.
when he made the call and said, the second time and said like, where are you people?
Yeah,
They came up, they sent 5 guys and a backhoe. Don't ask me what they thought they were sending a backhoe for.
I'm not worried about who said what, when, but I want to know if this is an
That's the
issue that
mentality.
keeps happening, why isn't it being fixed? Dig it up and put a new sewer line in.
They claim they have scoped it, they have run cameras supposedly. They can't find it. Mr. Odom, you have pictures from Dad from before.
I remember, yep.
There's actually a dip in that line. There where it comes like where the storm sewer is in that corner. It's between Deborah Jane and Arlington. His is the only 2-car garage, and it comes down into that green, and it just goes.
Okay. We'll have Howard address it.
I mean, something has to be done.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely.
I mean, I don't want him cleaning it. I told him put snow fence around it I said, just let the grass grow on it.
Maybe you still don't want that. You still don't want all that.
No, and I'm not gonna have him at 86 clean it.
No, he shouldn't have to. At any age, actually.
Right.
Not just
I mean,
because
but the
he's 86.
sewers in Regency are horrendous.
And, they take on capital projects all the time. Maybe it's time to redo the sewer system. I
I
don't know.
mean, that
We'll
same
get an
day I
answer.
came through.
Yeah.
In fact, Linda Garlitz, she calls me the town crier because as soon as it starts heavy rain, I put on Facebook on the flood victims things. Remember, backflows, do not flush water. Do not use any water in that house at this time. Because that was what they told us. If we use any
get
water,
out. You
it's
break
gonna
the
lock
seal.
the valve open,
Yeah.
and you're gonna get it worse.
Yeah, I do know that.
In fact, she was on vacation, and I called her and said, don't go doing anything at your house. And I didn't know if she was. And it was like I went through Miller's Lane, came back through 10 minutes later, and the lower part of Miller's Lane was flooded. That's how fast this storm is coming up.
Well, that's
And
what
the
we're trying
sewers
to get
just
the Center
aren't
Beach project
taking it.
done. Hopefully that takes, well, I don't know about up there, but down
Yeah, I
in
don't think it's
Anderson-
gonna help down in there.
Hopefully it's gonna help Anderson.
I don't know how it's gonna help Vale.
Yeah, I don't know if it's,
Because
that's what I
at
just said,
least
I don't think it's
it's,
gonna help
like, at
Bell.
least on Anderson, they have a creek.
Right.
We don't have a creek on Vale.
I think Anderson's more stormwater, yours is more
Sanitary
Well,
based.
and the storm sewer comes up across from him. So if he doesn't get it if he doesn't get it one way, we get it the other way. I mean, 517 Flanick's home. He had like $65,000 damage last time, 26 months ago. His hedges were underwater and halfway up the front of his yard. And his yard sloped. So something has to give on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Garland's 508 Anderson. I just wanted to say something positive to start. There's 2 council members who have helped me tremendously throughout this whole process, and I don't want to name you publicly and embarrass you, but you know who you are, and I thank you very much. Okay, and as Debbie said, on September 15th, we had another storm event. I received a call from Debbie. It said, look out your window, the street's flooding again. We were in Virginia Beach. So we helplessly watched through our doorbell, a Ring doorbell, as the water came up halfway up our driveway. That's a terrifying thing, and we feel like we're prisoners in our home, that we can't go anywhere with this situation. I wanted to know if anyone thought that this, I know we have water coming from everywhere, but if the St. John's project is contributing at all to what's happening, it's getting worse. I mean, we had Ida on September 1st, flooding in the street. It's really becoming an untenable situation. It has been for 17 years, but we're at the end of our rope here. I wanted to know if anyone considered the culvert at Miller's Lane and Anderson Avenue as a problem. And I know some people have seen with this last event how it causes a dam effect. My husband is convinced that's a major part of the problem. I know that involves a lot of money to widen that. And I'm also concerned about the Center Beach project. Are we putting all our eggs in in one basket, that is the magical fix?
That's not the only fix, that's the first part of it. We're still
Okay.
looking into that other system that's closer to your home, right, Mike? The weirs and stuff like that.
It's a similar concept, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's the second, yeah.
So
It's the second phase.
that's just a bigger involved project. So what we were trying to do, Linda, was get to the one we knew we could get to the quickest, and that's the Center Beach. And that should help, but it's not going to alleviate all the problems for the very heavy storms. I don't want to, tell you
Well,
it's going
believe me,
to.
there's no candy coating it.
The water that's coming down.
Nothing's going to help, nothing. I mean, I hate to be pessimistic, but it's getting to that point.
Now, if not one of them, if that one doesn't help enough, then the other one should do it. In tandem, they should work
Okay.
yeah, we're hoping, we have to get it all engineered out yet and
Right.
everything, but
Is
the
it-
idea is good as far as I could see. It just there's a lot of stuff that has to come together, so it's gonna be a while.
So is it years, is that what we're talking about? More years?
Yeah, we actually had a discussion at the last task force meeting, and I know the minutes haven't been posted because I just literally got them finished yesterday, yesterday. But they will be, and you'll see in the minutes that we actually talked about this and talked about status of long-term projects like Center Beach and the O-Block Key West project that, mitigate some of the flooding concerns over on Pine Valley. But, yeah, I mean, Dave's right. We are putting the majority of our eggs in the Center Beach basket, because when we did the analysis, we recognized that that was going to be the greatest bang for the buck. Unfortunately, the time that it takes to complete a project of that magnitude is substantial. But we're looking to get more visibility into that. You see, there's a gentleman here from KU Resources, and we talked about getting some more visibility into those projects, so you can kind of see, the status of what's happening, from month to month. One of the other things that you had mentioned was the issue associated with the parking area at St. John's. We actually talked about that as well during the task force meeting. And there's a few things that we're going to look at relative to how that was engineered and whether or not there's some improvements that can be done in the event that it's a contributing factor. The culvert under Miller's Lane, we talked about that a while ago. That was one of the first things that we looked at relative
way before the
to
Center
trying
Beach
to,
project.
trying to come up with solutions. And unfortunately, where that culvert is and the infrastructure that is around that, it's, was it Verizon lines and
It's a
who
gas
else?
line.
Gas line? I thought Verizon had lines there too.
But I think the gas
There's
line
everything
was
there.
the biggest contributor that couldn't be done.
Right.
The Verizon line was less of an obstacle than the gas.
Than the gas lines, yeah. It just makes it really tough. But, when I was down there that day, you could see the majority of the water was on Miller's Lane. It wasn't on Anderson. There was water on Anderson, but not anywhere near what you saw on Miller's Lane. So we were trying to figure out, well, geez, what changed? Because typically the water rose and actually pushed toward your houses. This time, it was literally going up and down Miller's Lane.
Well, it was, from what we could see on our camera, it had at one point come up halfway up our driveway.
Yeah, it had gone up,
Yeah.
but typically we don't see as much on Miller's Lane, and this time, it was just, I think it was almost up to my knees, where when I walked down, I could see how deep it was.
It's the Regency in Miller's Lane, that storm sewer wasn't taking water, because I had been in Unity and was going back up to them.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came down, it was like hitting the storm and like jumping out onto Miller's Lane. And it was also coming out at Schulteis Apartments there.
Right, mm-hmm.
Okay, it was just like somebody turned a fire hose on, whew, coming out of there. And both of those were, that was like 3:45, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's
That was
when I
the-
called her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I didn't know if it was gonna go like into her backyard, but that storm sewer, it just was bypassing it. It was like taking nothing and just coming out onto the road.
Right. Okay. Well, we are looking at that, and like I said, there's a gentleman here, I see him taking feverish notes, and we're going to be talking about some of these items, as well as, what things can potentially be done to find out what are the contributing factors to the increased, volume of water in that area.
You can look at Dad's property and you come
Yeah, and what can be done.
and then 518, 516 down. I'll even give you his phone number, as he's home during the day. It's 412 795 795 6332. His name's Jack Patterson.
And the backflow preventer has worked for us as well in these instances.
Right.
Yeah.
So we are very grateful for that.
Yeah, we instructed, I think, your neighbor to get one put in when he asked
Yeah,
about the
as
issue.
a matter of fact, Mike DeGilia called me shortly after that to let me know about fixing my driveway. Thank you guys for getting his attention on that. And he said I told him this guy would be calling. He said they already got the call and they're gonna get it fixed. So they're gonna get your neighbor looking at your house to the left, the new guy.
And we finalized the purchase of Center Beach, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that was done. The
Deeds
land
transferred,
acquisition
yep.
is done.
We
Yep.
finalized Center Beach. We purchased Center Beach. It's ours now. So it's moving forward.
Well, we couldn't get a permit until we owned the land.
Yeah. So we own the property now. Yeah.
Hopefully, next storm task force meeting, harbor management engineers, they will have target dates, they will have items that are complete, items that need complete. So so everybody knows where
We do that now.
projects are. Because right now, we're not doing this. I'm embarrassed to say that, but we're not.
Well, and I'm not just trying to be selfish for my own self. There's a lot of residents that are.
There are.
Yep.
That's why we're doing it. It's taken us this long to get this far.
Yep.
It's unbelievably slow.
Frustrating for everybody.
Yeah, super frustrating.
But the land is ours now, because we had to negotiate that, and that, so we're moving forward.
Any other comments from members of the public? Okay, thank you everyone for attending. We are adjourning for executive session.